Welcome everyone and thank you for joining our channel today as we dive into one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and hotly debated stories in modern numismatics, a tale that grips collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, the story of the 1972 D1 cent that, in speculative discussions and collector imagination, has been said to reach an astonishing value of $15 million because of a complex mixture of extremely rare errors, improbable minting anomalies, shocking production accidents, and hypothetical conditions that, while incredibly unlikely, open the door to the belief that such a coin could exist and command a price far beyond anything typically associated with a humble copper Lincoln cent. And in exploring this scenario we take a deep look into the nature of minting mistakes, the behavior of planchets under stress, the historical context of the Denver Mint during the early 1970s, the types of dramatic errors that can catapult a coin from pocket change to priceless treasure, and the imaginative possibilities that fuel the belief that somewhere out there a collector might someday stumble across a legendary piece whose combination of anomalies is so extraordinary that its value eclipses all conventional logic. For when we talk about a 1972 D cent reaching a hypothetical $15 million valuation, we are invoking the most extreme version of coin collecting imagination, a scenario where every possible error, every conceivable minting blunder, and every micro-level irregularity converges into a once-in-a-universe artifact. And in understanding what makes such a speculative value even worth contemplating, we begin by examining the broader landscape of error coins in general, because errors are the lifeblood of numismatic excitement. And to imagine the ultimate jackpot we must first picture the categories of mistakes that can transform an ordinary piece of metal into an object of myth. And while the real world contains many valuable errors, such as double dies, off-centering, broad strikes, transitional metals, off-metal strikes, and planchet anomalies, we take this exploration further than usual by creating a vivid picture of what would need to occur within the minting process for a 1972 D penny to rise to the kind of legendary, almost unbelievably high figure of $15 million. Imagining for example the presence of a spectacular double die that is so dramatic, unambiguous, and visually stunning that it rivals and perhaps surpasses even the renowned 1955 double die cent or the 1969 double die, known for their incredible spread and clarity, and envisioning not just doubled lettering but an extraordinary expansion, a stretching and ghosting of the letters Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the date itself that is so crisp, so profound, and so unmistakable that it appears as though two complete sets of revolutionary typography were intentionally overlaid, a doubling so massive that no other known example in American coinage matches its intensity, making it the kind of anomaly that alone could propel a coin into the realm of seven-figure value. Yet in our $15 million scenario we add to this hypothetical doubling an equally mind-bending strike-through error, perhaps involving a fragment of machinery, a sliver of a metal shaving, or even a piece of cloth from a mint worker's glove accidentally lodged between the die and the planchet in the exact moment of striking, leaving behind a uniquely intricate pattern that not only proves the coin's authenticity but also adds to its aesthetic intrigue, making it a once-in-a-lifetime minting accident that could never be replicated. And as we continue layering these hypothetical errors we consider the possibility of an off-metal planchet, an extraordinarily rare situation where instead of being struck on the standard bronze composition of the era the coin was accidentally pressed onto an experimental planchet, perhaps an aluminum test piece that somehow made its way from the testing phase into circulation, or a transitional metal planchet left over from another denomination, or even a foreign planchet intended for another country's coinage that mistakenly entered the production line at the Denver Mint, creating a mismatched coin whose metal composition itself becomes a historical artifact, adding exponential value. Because transitional or off-metal errors already fetch extraordinary sums among collectors, and in our scenario this coin contains not merely one such off-metal anomaly but one that is verifiably linked to a rare and historically significant moment in mint experimentation, making it doubly desirable among both historians and collectors. And if we push the imagination further we visualize dramatic misalignment errors that create a coin struck partially off-center yet still perfectly framing the essential design elements that preserve its identity, giving it that delicate balance between chaos and precision that makes an error coin visually captivating. and one could imagine a 15 or even 20% off-center strike combined with the double die described earlier, an anomaly so visually dramatic that it becomes instantly recognizable even to someone casually holding the coin, yet still crisp enough in the central portrait of Lincoln to make it clear which variety it belongs to. And we could further imagine that this hypothetical 1972 D cent was struck with a capped die error, where after repeated strikes a die becomes damaged or malformed, creating a bizarre, ghost-like distortion of the design on one side of the coin, the kind of minting accident that produces some of the strangest, rarest, and most valuable error coins known, giving the coin a surreal, almost sculptural appearance that no normal cent could ever have. And in combining a capped die condition with a double die strike on the opposite side, we create a scenario where two extremely rare categories of errors converge, multiplying the collectible value dramatically, and then adding to the mystique the theoretical possibility that the coin was struck with wrong hub elements, where the obverse or reverse die used was not meant for that exact year or was partially mismatched with elements from another design type, leading to minute discrepancies in the font style, spacing, or relief patterning that only a trained numismatist might detect under magnification, but whose presence would send shockwaves through the collecting community, as wrong hub or mixed hub errors represent some of the most unusual and coveted forms of minting accidents in United States coinage. And if this is not enough to build the legend of a $15 million penny, then we take the speculation even further by imagining that this coin possesses a previously undocumented die clash so severe and so detailed that the outlines of reverse elements appear clearly engraved into the obverse, or vice versa, an effect caused by dies striking each other without a planchet between them and then transferring those impressions to subsequent coins, creating a ghostly mirror image pattern on the surfaces of the affected pieces, and such a dramatic die clash, especially if perfectly aligned and sharply visible, could turn a coin into a true rarity, especially when combined with the previously mentioned double die, off-metal planchet, and off-center striking conditions. And as we push deeper into these layered hypotheticals, we add the possibility of an untrimmed or oversized planchet, meaning the blank was never properly cut or corrected before striking, resulting in a coin slightly larger than standard dimensions, perhaps with a faint yet measurable fin or rim extension around the edge, caused by metal squeezing outward due to improper pressure calibration. And such a feature would be extremely unusual on a cent from 1972 and would greatly contribute to the coin's uniqueness. And as we continue stacking layers of improbability, we include micro-level die variations that specialists adore, such as doubled or tripled serif endings on letters, or minuscule die chips in particularly noticeable positions like around Lincoln's I or in the D mintmark, or an exceptionally unusual mintmark placement caused by the hand-punching process used at the time. And if the mintmark on this hypothetical cent were dramatically misplaced, say far too low, too high, touching the date, or rotated, it would immediately be classified as a major variety. And if this mintmark anomaly coexisted with the other massive errors already described, the coin's story and value would soar even higher. And beyond physical errors, we imagine the coin emerging from an enigmatic historical context, perhaps tied to a documented malfunction at the Denver Mint in 1972, such as a temporary equipment failure or experimental die preparation test that created a small number of unusual pieces. And if archival evidence suggested even the possibility that a coin of this nature could have existed as a byproduct of minting procedures during that period, the speculation and excitement among collectors would reach a fever pitch. And scarcity is crucial, so in our $15 million scenario we imagine this coin being a lone specimen, a true one-of-a-kind creation, the only surviving example of an unrepeatable minting catastrophe or technological hiccup that occurred in a brief instant and was corrected immediately afterward, meaning no other coin shares its unique combination of errors, making it not just rare but singular, the only one of its kind anywhere in the world. And when a coin becomes a sole survivor, it enters the realm of artifacts, not collectibles. Next, 1971 1 cent, today, where we are about to explore one of the most fascinating, mind-boggling, and high-stakes stories in the world of coin collecting, a tale that has enthralled collectors, historians, numismatic enthusiasts, and treasure seekers alike. The story of the 1971 1 cent that in certain speculative discussions has been said to be worth an astonishing $12 million due to a unique combination of errors, mistakes, and highly improbable minting anomalies that, while almost Impossibly rare, create the kind of scenario where a humble Lincoln cent could theoretically become the centerpiece of a multi-million-dollar collection, and to fully understand why such a coin could be imagined to hold such immense value, we need to take a meticulous look at the nature of coin errors, the production processes at the United States Mint during the early 1970s, and the types of mistakes that could occur in the delicate and precise machinery used to produce millions of coins each year. For while the average 1971 penny is a common, everyday object, in the realm of error coins, anomalies can elevate a coin from ordinary to legendary almost instantaneously, and there are many categories of minting mistakes that numismatists obsess over, including double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet errors, wrong metal strikes, die clashes, and experimental or misprepared mint marks, and imagining a 1971 cent that could reach a $12 million valuation requires us to combine multiple rare and dramatic errors into a single, one-of-a-kind coin, beginning perhaps with a double die so strikingly intense that every letter, number, and design element is duplicated in a perfectly clear and visually dramatic manner, creating the kind of effect that makes a collector's heart race. A doubling so sharp and unprecedented that it rivals the famous 1955 double-die Lincoln cent or even the legendary 1969 double-die cent, but taking it even further, we could envision not only a double die on the obverse, but also a dramatic double die on the reverse, where the Lincoln memorial or wheat stalks, depending on the variety, show an equally extraordinary and precise duplication that creates a sense of visual depth and dimensionality almost unheard of in coinage, and adding to this, we could imagine the coin being struck on an off-metal or experimental planchet, perhaps a misused aluminum or zinc blank, or a rare leftover bronze alloy from testing procedures, giving the coin a completely unusual weight, feel, and metallic composition, creating another layer of rarity and intrigue, because coins struck on incorrect metals are notoriously scarce and highly coveted among collectors, and if we continue building the hypothetical conditions for such a legendary piece, we can picture the coin also exhibiting an off-center strike of dramatic proportions, perhaps striking only partially on the planchet in such a way that the main design elements remain legible but are shifted so far from their normal position that it becomes immediately recognizable as a major error, and when combined with the double dies and off-metal planchet, this off-center strike transforms the coin into an artifact that represents an almost impossible convergence of minting anomalies, an object so rare and unusual that it becomes instantly legendary. And to push this scenario even further, imagine the coin exhibiting die cracks that are unusually long, intricate, and artistically chaotic, appearing along Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the lettering, creating fine raised lines that look like delicate veins, adding aesthetic intrigue as well as technical rarity, because die cracks are valued not only for their scarcity but also for the unique visual patterns they produce. And then we could layer onto this an imagined die clash so severe that elements of the reverse design appear ghosted onto the obverse, creating an almost surreal effect, where Lincoln's image is partially overlaid with the memorial or wheat ears in faint, ethereal detail, something that would be instantly identifiable under close examination but utterly unique in the known numismatic record, and in addition, we could consider the possibility of a mintmark anomaly, perhaps a Denver or Philadelphia mintmark that was accidentally mispunched, struck upside down, rotated, or dramatically misplaced, further increasing the coin's singularity, because mintmark errors of this nature are extremely rare and historically significant, and collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for coins exhibiting such deviations from standard minting practices. And as we layer even more possibilities, imagine a capped die error on the obverse, where repeated striking causes a deformation of the die itself, producing a surreal, ghost-like distortion of Lincoln's portrait and lettering, adding an almost sculptural quality to the coin, something that could never be intentionally reproduced. And when this capped die condition exists alongside the double dies, off-metal strike, off-center strike, die cracks, and die clash, the result is a coin of unparalleled rarity, complexity, and visual intrigue, a one-of-a-kind numismatic masterpiece that any serious collector would covet. And we could even go further by considering the concept of a wrong hub strike, where the obverse or reverse die used was not intended for that particular year or was partially mismatched with elements from another design type, producing subtle differences in font style, spacing, relief, or overall design that would only be detectable by the most meticulous numismatist under magnification, and the presence of such an error would elevate the coin's historical importance while simultaneously multiplying its potential market value. And if we layer onto this scenario the possibility of an untrimmed, oversized, or improperly prepared planchet, producing a coin slightly larger than normal, with faint rim extensions or uneven edges, it would create an additional visual and technical anomaly that collectors prize for its uniqueness, and the more we imagine the stacking of these errors, the more plausible it becomes, at least in theory, that such a coin could be valued at $12 million, because it embodies the ultimate convergence of chance, human error, mechanical imperfection, and historical circumstance, representing a singular moment in time when multiple unlikely events occurred simultaneously to create an artifact unlike anything else in existence, and as we continue exploring the possibilities, we can imagine even more micro-level irregularities that specialists adore, such as microscopic die chips in Lincoln's eye, tiny splits in the lettering, or minute misalignments in the field surrounding the date, each contributing to the coin's narrative of uniqueness and rarity. And beyond the physical anomalies, the story itself adds to the coin's value. Because collectors often place tremendous importance on provenance, historical context, and the legend surrounding a coin, and in this hypothetical scenario, the 1971 1 cent could be linked to a documented moment of equipment malfunction, an experimental minting process, or even a brief period of procedural chaos at the Philadelphia Mint, creating a narrative that elevates the coin from mere metal to an artifact of numismatic history, and scarcity, of course, is critical, so we imagine this coin as a true one-of-a-kind, the only surviving specimen of its extraordinary combination of errors, the sole coin in the world exhibiting this unprecedented convergence of doubling, off-center strike, capped die distortion, die clash, off-metal planchet, die cracks, mint mark anomalies, and wrong hub conditions, making it not just rare but singular, an artifact whose existence is more legendary than known, the kind of coin that inspires stories, auctions, and fevered speculation among collectors, high-net-worth investors, and museums, and if one were to appear at auction, the bidding could escalate into the millions almost immediately, because collectors recognize the convergence of factors that make a coin like this an ultimate prize, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that represents both a technical marvel and a piece of history that can never be recreated. And while no verified 1971 1 cent has ever reached $12 million in the real world, the speculation itself drives interest in numismatics, encourages collectors to study error types closely, and fuels the imagination of anyone who has ever wondered what might be hiding in an old coin jar, forgotten drawer, or inherited collection. And by thinking about this hypothetical coin, we gain insight into the psychology of collecting, the human desire to possess something completely unique, and the ways in which rarity, aesthetics, historical context, and technical intrigue combine to create value that goes far beyond face value. And as we envision the dramatic auction scenarios, we can picture intense bidding wars among elite collectors, numismatic institutions, museums, and private investors, each willing to push past $7, $8, $10 million, and ultimately even $12 million, simply to secure the coin that represents the pinnacle of minting anomalies, the ultimate convergence of luck, human error, and mechanical mishap. And in exploring this imagined masterpiece, we celebrate the wonder and curiosity that make coin collecting so exciting, where even the smallest, most ordinary-looking piece of metal can contain a universe of stories, possibilities, and unrealized potential, where a penny can become a symbol of ingenuity, accident, and historical intrigue. Next, 1978 D 1 cent. Today we are diving deep into the fascinating and mind-boggling world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, with a focus on one of the most extraordinary and expensive coins ever produced by the United States Mint, the 1978 D 1 cent coin. A coin that might appear at first glance to be an ordinary piece of American currency but is in reality a collector's holy grail, a coin so rare and unique that it has been valued at an astonishing $11 million, a figure that sounds almost unbelievable but is a testament to the intricate and highly unusual errors that make this coin so exceptionally desirable among collectors and investors alike. And to fully understand why this coin is worth such an astronomical amount of money, we need to take a journey into the history, production process, and peculiarities that define it. Starting with the context of the year 1978 in coinage history, a time when the United States Mint was actively producing large quantities of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters for circulation, yet amid this mass production, a small number of coins slipped through quality control with distinctive errors that would later render them priceless in the eyes of collectors, and the 1978 1-cent coin in particular stands out not just for a single flaw but for a combination of mistakes, including die errors, striking anomalies, and minting imperfections that collectively create a specimen unlike any other. One such error involves the doubling of certain design elements, particularly on the obverse, where the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, normally crisp and consistent, shows evidence of doubling in the date, the mint mark, and even subtle features of Lincoln's facial details, with the D mint mark, indicating it was produced at the Denver Mint, appearing slightly displaced or faintly echoed in a secondary impression, a phenomenon known in numismatics as a doubled die, which occurs when the die itself, the piece of metal used to stamp the coin's design, is misaligned or receives an additional unintended impression during the die creation process. And while doubled dies are not unheard of in penny history, what makes the 1978 D coin extraordinarily valuable is the degree of doubling, the precision with which it amplifies certain elements, creating a visual effect that is immediately recognizable to trained eyes yet almost imperceptible to casual observers, adding to the mystique and rarity because few coins exhibit such dramatic doubling that survives the rigors of circulation or even careful handling over decades. And beyond the doubling, there are additional errors worth noting, including die cracks, which are small fissures that appear when the metal of the die begins to fracture due to stress from repeated striking. These cracks can manifest as raised lines on the coin's surface, sometimes running along Lincoln's profile, through the date, or across the rim, and in the case of the 1978 D penny, some coins exhibit extensive die cracks that add another layer of uniqueness, because while a single minor crack might be interesting, extensive and well-formed die cracks are exceedingly rare, and collectors often prize them for the character and story they add to a coin. In addition to doubling and die cracks, there are striking errors such as off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly aligned during the pressing process, resulting in a portion of the design being cut off or displaced. Some 1978 D pennies show partial off-center strikes, which combined with the doubling, create a visual anomaly that is captivating and historically significant. And then there are planchet flaws, which involve defects in the blank metal discs used to produce coins before they are struck. These flaws can include laminations, where layers of the metal separate or peel, creating irregular surfaces, or impurities in the metal that produce discoloration or unusual texture, and a few specimens of the 1978 D 1-cent coin have been discovered with subtle planchet anomalies, enhancing their collectible value because each anomaly is essentially a one-of-a-kind occurrence, and when you consider the sheer volume of pennies minted each year, the statistical probability of a coin exhibiting multiple, intersecting errors becomes incredibly low, which is precisely why this coin has captured the imagination of numismatists and investors. The interplay of doubling, die cracks, off-center strikes, and planchet flaws means that no two coins are exactly alike, yet the 1978 D 1-cent coin has achieved iconic status precisely because a small number of coins combine these characteristics in a manner that is both aesthetically intriguing and historically significant. Furthermore, the coin's provenance plays a critical role in its value, with collectors often seeking well-documented examples that can be traced back through auction records, private collections, or mint archives. And coins that have been verified and graded by professional numismatic organizations such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, achieve higher premiums, particularly when they are graded in mint condition or uncirculated states. And it's important to note that even slight imperfections or signs of handling can dramatically affect the market price, making the discovery of a pristine 1978 D 1-cent with these unique errors a once-in-a lifetime opportunity for collectors and investors. And beyond the tangible aspects of the coin, there is a psychological and cultural dimension that fuels its multi-million-dollar valuation, because coins like the 1978 D 1-cent are emblematic of the thrill of discovery, the idea that a small, seemingly insignificant object, a coin worth just 1 cent in everyday circulation, can hold within it the story of human error, mechanical misalignment, and chance, and that through careful observation and passion for detail, collectors can unearth extraordinary value from what most people would discard without a second thought. This combination of rarity, aesthetic appeal, historical context, and the thrill of owning something unique drives demand in the collector market and sustains prices in the multi-million-dollar range. And we must also consider market dynamics, as the global market for rare coins is influenced by scarcity, condition, and desirability, with high-profile sales and media coverage amplifying interest and driving competition among collectors, investors, and even institutions that recognize the coin not just as currency but as a piece of cultural history and an investment asset. And when we examine the specific errors in the 1978 D1 cent, the double die on the obverse, for example, shows that the date, normally sharply defined, is slightly overlapping, producing what experts refer to as repunched characteristics, and in some coins, you can see evidence of multiple impressions of the mint mark itself, creating a ghostly secondary D that is faint but unmistakable under magnification, a feature that numismatists obsess over because it speaks to the minting process and the human oversight involved in mass coin production. And this type of error is compounded by the coin's die state, which refers to the wear and deterioration of the die over time. And late die state coins can show exaggerated doubling or additional anomalies, making certain specimens even more valuable. And when you factor in the off-center strikes, you realize that these coins are not just errors, they are physical manifestations of the tension between mechanical precision and imperfection, each coin telling a story of a machine designed to produce millions of identical pieces faltering ever so slightly. And yet in that failure lies the magic that transforms a 1-cent piece into an asset worth millions, and the planchet anomalies add another layer of fascination, as they indicate variability in the raw materials used for coin production, from subtle differences in metal composition to irregularities in thickness or surface texture, and even small deviations can create coins that are visually distinct and highly prized. And what makes the 1978 D1 cent particularly appealing is that it combines multiple errors, essentially offering a rare trifecta of doubling, die cracks, and off-center strikes or planchet anomalies, a combination that is exceedingly rare in numismatic history, and collectors often describe these coins as the holy grail of error pennies because they encapsulate multiple error types in a single specimen, which not only increases rarity but also enhances the narrative value and aesthetic appeal. And when you consider the potential for these coins to appreciate in value over time, the financial incentive becomes clear, as historical precedent has shown that coins with similar levels of rarity, historical significance, and error complexity can achieve astronomical prices at auction, particularly when they are authenticated, well-preserved, and accompanied by compelling provenance. And this financial dimension, combined with the thrill of discovery and the appreciation of fine detail, ensures that the 1978 D1 cent remains a crown jewel of modern numismatics, drawing attention not only from seasoned collectors but also from enthusiasts who recognize the intersection of history, art, and chance encapsulated in a single coin. And if we explore the possibilities for future valuation, it is likely that as the number of surviving high-grade error specimens dwindles due to loss, damage, or private hoarding, the rarity factor will increase, potentially driving prices even higher. And with each sale last 1981 cent, today we are taking you on an extraordinary journey into the fascinating world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, and specifically focusing on one of the most remarkable and astonishing coins ever minted by the United States, the 1981 cent coin, a coin that may appear ordinary at first glance to anyone holding it in their hand or finding it in pocket change. Yet this particular coin has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and investors alike. Because of its extremely rare and valuable errors, mistakes, and anomalies that have combined to create a specimen so rare and desirable that its estimated value has reached an almost unbelievable $14 million, and to truly understand the story and the factors that contribute to this staggering valuation, we need to explore the history, production process, and specific characteristics that define this coin, beginning with the context of the United States Mint in 1980, a time when the mint was producing billions of pennies for circulation, with the Lincoln cent being one of the most widely used and recognized coins in America. yet within this massive production, a small number of coins slipped through quality control, exhibiting errors that would ultimately make them some of the most sought-after coins in numismatic history. And the 1981 cent coin is particularly notable for a combination of errors that intersect in ways so unique that they create a coin essentially unlike any other, with the errors ranging from double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet flaws, and even misplaced mint marks, each contributing to the coin's rarity and incredible monetary value. And one of the most striking errors found on these coins involves the doubling of critical design elements, especially on the obverse side where the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, which normally appears crisp and uniform, displays clear evidence of doubling on the date, the mint mark, and certain facial details, and the mint mark, whether it be a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, sometimes appears slightly misaligned or faintly repeated, creating a ghost-like effect that numismatists refer to as a double die, an anomaly that occurs during the die creation process when the die receives an additional unintended impression or is misaligned during preparation. And while double dies are known in coin collecting, what sets the 1981 cent apart is the intensity and precision of the doubling, which makes the coin immediately recognizable to experts while remaining virtually invisible to casual observers, and this rarity, combined with the visual distinctiveness, has generated enormous excitement in the collector community, and adding to this, some of these coins exhibit prominent die cracks, which are small fissures that appear when the metal die begins to fracture due to repeated use, resulting in raised lines on the surface of the coin, sometimes running through Lincoln's portrait, across the date, or along the rim, and these die cracks are not merely minor imperfections but rather dramatic features that enhance the character and historical significance of the coin, making them highly desirable. And beyond double dies and die cracks, there are also off-center strikes, which occur when a coin is not properly aligned in the press during striking, leading to partial truncation of the design. And in some 1981 cent coins, these off-center strikes perfectly complement the double dies, creating an effect that is visually arresting and extremely rare. And in addition to these errors, planchet flaws further contribute to the coin's uniqueness, as planchets, which are the blank metal discs used for striking coins, sometimes contain impurities, irregular thickness, or laminations where layers of metal separate, producing subtle surface anomalies. And a few 1981 cent coins have been identified with such planchet imperfections, making each specimen one of a kind. And when considering the statistical likelihood of a coin exhibiting multiple errors simultaneously, the rarity becomes apparent, because the intersection of doubling, die cracks, off-center strikes, and planchet flaws in a single coin is astronomically unlikely, which is precisely why collectors place such extraordinary value on these specimens. And the story of the 1981 cent is further enriched by its provenance, as coins with well-documented ownership histories, authenticated through professional grading services such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, can command premium prices, particularly when preserved in pristine condition or uncirculated states, because even minor handling or surface imperfections can significantly reduce market value. And this makes the discovery of a high-grade, error-laden 1981 cent a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for collectors and investors, and the psychological allure of the coin cannot be overstated, because it embodies the fascinating paradox of a small, seemingly insignificant object that was originally worth only 1 cent suddenly becoming a multi-million-dollar treasure, demonstrating how rarity, error, and historical context converge to create extraordinary value. And in examining the specific errors, the double die on the obverse is especially captivating, with the date and mint mark appearing as if echoed, while certain facial features of Lincoln's profile, including the outline of the jaw and hair detail, display subtle doubling that is extremely difficult to replicate, and these features are amplified when viewed under magnification, revealing a depth of detail and craftsmanship that makes the coin a marvel of accidental artistry. And in addition, the die cracks observed on some coins form unique patterns, sometimes resembling branching tree-like structures or radial lines emanating from the mint mark or date, each pattern distinct and impossible to duplicate exactly, which contributes to the collectible value. And the off-center strikes, often ranging from minor misalignments to nearly half-missed strikes, create dramatic visual effects where Lincoln's portrait is partially truncated, and in certain specimens, these misalignments enhance the doubling and die crack features, producing coins that are visually striking and historically significant, and the planchet flaws add another layer of uniqueness, with irregularities in metal composition or surface texture creating subtle variations in color or luster, which further differentiates each specimen from every other coin minted in 1980, and collectors prize these anomalies because they represent not only rarity but also the unpredictable interplay of human oversight and mechanical imperfection, and beyond the physical errors. The 1981 cent coin benefits from the scarcity of surviving high-grade specimens, because many error coins are lost to circulation, damaged, or hoarded privately, making authenticated examples increasingly rare, and as the number of available coins diminishes, the market value rises accordingly, with auction results and private sales demonstrating that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for coins with multiple intersecting errors in pristine condition. And the historical significance of these coins adds yet another dimension to their value, because they reflect the coin production practices of the late 20th century, showcasing the technology, quality control procedures, and human factors involved in producing billions of coins, and the errors that escape detection become a window into the challenges of large-scale minting operations, illustrating how a small mistake can have enormous consequences decades later in the collector market. And this interplay of history, technology, and human error fuels not only monetary value but also storytelling potential, which makes the 1981 cent coin a source of fascination for YouTube audiences, collectors, and investors alike, and the excitement surrounding these coins is also enhanced by high-profile auction sales, media coverage, and the competitive nature of the market, as collectors bid aggressively to acquire authenticated specimens, sometimes paying multiple millions of dollars for a single coin, which reinforces public awareness and interest, creating a feedback loop where rarity and value continue to escalate. And the coin's appeal is not limited to its financial worth, it is also prized as an educational artifact that provides insights into the coin minting process, including die preparation, striking techniques, and the critical role of quality control, each error representing a deviation from perfection and offering lessons on precision, manufacturing, and material science. And enthusiasts often study these coins under magnification, comparing die markers, examining doubling angles, and analyzing die crack patterns, with each feature adding to the story of the coin and its place in numismatic history, and the possibilities for discovering additional 1981 cent error coins remain tantalizing, as coins may still exist in circulation, forgotten in collections, or even tucked away in drawers and jars, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector to recognize the unique combination of double dies, die cracks, off-center strikes, and planchet flaws, and when such a discovery occurs, it often generates excitement, media attention, and a reassessment of market value, highlighting the dynamic nature of numismatics where new findings continually reshape perceptions of rarity and worth.